In case you didn't know, I'm a bit of a mythology nerd. In fact, it's why I chose Anansi as essentially the patron of my channel, and it's also part of why the series Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters is so dear to me. In this show, there are quite a few references to gods, mainly those of the ancient Near East, in the names of some of the characters. Some of them are obvious to the general audience, others less so. But let's get into the ones I found. Determining what is actually meant to be a reference and what isn't is tricky business. So I'm starting with the ones that I think are least likely to be references before switching to the obvious ones. I'll also be taking a look at the decks, personalities, and story arcs of the characters to see if I can find anything there to connect to.
Well, Yami, I'm proud to call you my friend.
This first one is an honorable or perhaps dishonorable mention. In the American 4Kids dub, the Spirit of the Millennium Puzzle tells his partner the names he is called by.
I've been called many things through the ages. Pharaoh, Yu-Gi-Oh! I've been known as Yami.
Of course, Yami is a Japanese word that means darkness, and is a way of distinguishing Yugi, Bakura, and Malik from their so-called dark counterparts, but 4Kids made it one of the spirit's actual names. There is a god Yam or Yamu that was worshipped on the ancient Mediterranean coast. This Ugaritic minor god was even known in ancient Egypt as an enemy of the main Egyptian gods, though it isn't clear if he was worshipped there. Whether this name is actually meant to be a reference to the sea god Yam is up for debate, since I personally don't give the dubbers that much credit. In any case, there's nothing in his character or his deck that I can think of that furthers this accidental allusion anyway.
まずいよ。アンズ怒ってるみたいだし。
The next maybe reference is the only duelist throughout the show with no losses. You may know her in English as Thea, but in Japanese she's known as Anzu, which is also the name of a divine monster from Mesopotamian religions. He was often depicted as a bird or as an eagle with the head of a lion. Since Anzu is a real Japanese name, it's unclear whether her being given this name is a coincidence. But since there's at least one other Mesopotamian god reference in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's definitely a possibility that this was on purpose. When it comes to her deck, she does seem to have a lot of winged monsters, specifically fairy or angel monsters. If I'm stretching it, that could be a reference to Anzu, since he's an avian being. Otherwise, I can't think of any. There's definitely nothing in her character that would make the allusion more obvious either. After all, she's a gentle soul who doesn't give off monster vibes to me.
Mr. Pegasus, check your hold!
Now we move on to the ones I think are clearly deliberate references to gods. The one that I think most people would have instantly picked up on is Pegasus, the creator of the Duel Monsters card game. Out of all the mythologies of that part of the world, with the exception of Christian and Jewish, Greek mythology is probably the most well known. The winged horse Pegasus is son of Poseidon and the Gorgon Medusa. While I don't think he was worshipped, he was made part of quite a few myths and even directly served Zeus in some versions of his story. The cool thing about Yu-Gi-Oh's Pegasus is that his mythological namesake is directly referenced in the show. His castle features winged horse iconography, and he even has a card called Gorgon's Eye, a reference to Medusa, the mother of the Pegasus of myth.
お話ししましょう。イシュタール家の惨劇を。
The next name is not a single person's name, but the name of a family. The Ishtar family is a family of tomb keepers who have been guarding the tomb and secrets of a certain pharaoh for generations. Their name comes from Mesopotamian goddess of war, sexual love, and fertility. Since the family lives in Egypt, it is not surprising that they would have received this name over the millennia since their pharaoh's passing. Ancient Egypt was close to Mesopotamia, but not within it, which suggests that despite their secret isolationist lifestyle, the Ishtar family did have some contact with the outside world. Apart from that, there is no reference that I can think of to the goddess Ishtar in the personalities or decks of any of the Ishtar family, except that is for Malik, who is certainly warlike and strategic in his actions. When his dark side takes over though, that gives way to a far more chaotic way of fighting.
海馬コーポレーションの海馬瀬戸がデュエルに敗れました。
Ah, Seto Kaiba. This one's pretty obvious. He's likely named for a very famous god in Egyptian mythology, Set, god of the deserts, storms, chaos, and foreigners. Today, he is most well known for killing a primeval king of Egypt, his brother Osiris. With the rightful king gone, Set takes the throne. Set's ambition is reflected in Kaiba's desire to be the best duelist in the world. Ever since Yugi defeats him in the first episode, he holds a grudge against him that leads him to seek power and dethrone the king of games. He even uses ruthless tactics to achieve his goal, much like the god Set. At the same time though, Set is not all bad. He has a role on the boat of the sun god Ra, helping in the cyclic fight against the powerful snake of chaos, Apep. In the same way, Kaiba helps Yugi quite a few times in the show. As god of the red desert, Set helps to balance Horus, god of the black, fertile ground. This might be symbolized in the fact that Kaiba's deck and signature monster have the light attribute, while those of his rival Yugi lean more towards the dark attribute. I have to say I didn't think there would be so much to this connection, but it looks pretty strong in my opinion.
石津さん、あなたはマリクのお姉さんなんでしょ？
In both her past life in ancient Egypt and her modern day reincarnation, Ishizu's name is a clear reference to the Egyptian goddess Isis. In fact, the name Ishizu is extremely similar to the Japanese name for the goddess Isis. In her past life, the name the anime gives her is just the English version of the goddess's name. As sister wife of Osiris, yes, don't think about it too much, Isis plays an important role in the story of Osiris after Set murders him. She mourns for her brother husband, looking high and low for him, and it is her magic that brings him back to life, albeit briefly. Similarly, Ishizu tries her hardest to bring her brother back from the dark path he is on in the show. Both of them show great love and devotion to their brothers, though Ishizu is thankfully not romantically involved with hers. Though Ishizu's deck does not seem to reference the goddess Isis directly, it does have a visibly Egyptian theme. Her fairy or angel monsters have the earth attribute, which is somewhat atypical among that type of monster. Maybe there is something there, but I haven't been able to think of anything. If you have, let me know in the comments.
Atum, それがあなたの本当の名前。
Finally, the nameless pharaoh learns his name, Atem. He is named for the creator god Atum, whose name is sometimes rendered Atem. Being named after our creator god is fitting for the only person who has not only used all three god monsters, but their fusion, Horakti, the supreme god monster. Atum's name is thought to come from a verb meaning to complete or finish. Not only does Pharaoh Atem relearn his name at the end of the show, but this also represents him and his partner Yugi becoming complete due to their bond. At the very end, Yugi doesn't need Atem anymore, and I like to think he realizes that he never really did. Atem, on the other hand, learns kindness and light to balance his harsher and darker tendencies. With this, Atem is finally able to go to the underworld, and Yugi is ready to live his life without sharing his literal name, mind, and body with another. All that is just my interpretation of how these names relate to these characters though. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Please comment, leave a like, and subscribe if you think this kind of content is worth it. Thanks for watching. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.